As the day goes out the night, a generation will come forth. A generation of righteousness, winding the way, the heavenly way of truth. Babylon, ready to stand, the resurrection is at hand. A generation of righteousness, coming forth to heal the wounded land.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. Welcome to National Family Service. My name is Isaac Jong, and I'll be your host today. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our first-timers and our regulars to our international family and movement founded by Father and Mother Moon, whom we affectionately call our true parents. They've invested their lives to building a world of peace centered around the marriage blessing and God-centered families. You can learn more by typing #connect in the Facebook chat or visit nationalfamilyservice.org. With that, let's kick it off with our opening song.
For our opening song today, let's go to Lanham, Maryland, and sing along with the Weinman family as they play the song, You Are My Sunshine.
You are my sunshine, sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. There is a meadow high on the mountain where skylight and waterfalls around. Eternal homeland, my heart decided, shines like gold after rainbow sand. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Through the long winter, the heart is lonely. All creatures die on bare and soil. The summer morning
Thank you, Weinman family, for that opening song. Now let's join Michael Parker for our opening prayer.
Good morning, National Family. Please join me in prayer. Our dear beloved Heavenly Parent, we are so grateful that you are our Heavenly Mother and Heavenly Father, and that you've created all things for us. We come to you as your children this morning. We wish you happy Children's Day. This is a day that you have longed for deeply in your heart for so long. And so our hearts are joyful as we are able to come to you as your true children now, thanks to our beloved true parents, Dr. and Mrs. Song Young Moon. Heavenly Parent, we know that your heart can only be happy when your children are with you. And so today, we want to lift you up, Heavenly Parent, offer you all of our love, and return the love that you've given to us. We want to do this by uniting with our true mother and our true father, and becoming the true sons and daughters and the true families in this world that you've longed for since the creation. Heavenly Parent, we know that there's been so much suffering in this world, but now we can rededicate ourselves to you by pledging to serve others today as we go forward this week. And we pray that your spirit can be with us so that we can lift up your children, offer them salvation through your love, unchanging and everlasting. This has been your wish since you created all human beings. And we now, Heavenly Parent, can come to you humbly. We are not perfect yet, Heavenly Parent. We are still growing towards becoming your true children. But we are searching for you now, Heavenly Parent, the way that you have searched for us for so long. And we are so sorry that it's taken us so long, but now we want you to be a good hope, Heavenly Parent, that your heart can be lifted up and that we as your children can now take responsibility for creating the kingdom of heaven, one person, one family, one nation at a time, until all of your children live in oneness with you in the kingdom of heaven on this earth, Heavenly Parent. And we report this in the name of each and every one of your children, nationally, united in oneness with you this morning. And I report this in our names, Kimberly and Michael Parker, as a blessed central family. Jude.
Now let's go to Elizabeth, New Jersey, for a performance of Together We Can Change the World by the Elizabeth Children's Choir in celebration of Children's Day.
A big thank you to the Weinman family and the Elizabeth Children's Choir for those beautiful performances, as well as the Parker family for the opening prayer. And thank you, brothers and sisters, for your great comments. We have Chong Wang all the way from Malaysia joining us, Temple from Nigeria sending her best wishes. Michael Dickerson seems to have loved that performance by the children. And thank you all for those beautiful comments. And now it is my pleasure to welcome our Family Federation President in America, Naokimi Ushiroda, for our main message today. Welcome, President Naokimi.
Thank you so much. Happy November, everyone. We are entering the holiday season, and just a couple of days ago on Friday, our community celebrated a very special holiday called True Children's Day. Today, I wanted to share about the significance of this holiday, what it means to be a true child, and a little bit about how God must feel as a parent to humanity. Let's start with the reading from Father Moon. After God created all things in heaven and on earth, he was to have welcomed Children's Day, centering on Adam and Eve. However, because the human ancestors fell, ever since the time of Adam, not even one person has entered the glorious state. The purpose of history has been to restore humankind or to save humankind by placing them in the original position where they were at the beginning. Children's Day is when we children, for the first time in history, abide in the state where we can participate in his glory. So what Father Moon is saying here is that God really wanted to celebrate with his children, his first children, Adam and Eve, at the very beginning of history, biblical history. Unfortunately, they disconnected from God by disobeying the first commandment and falling prey to self-centered, immature sexual love. So God has been longing throughout history to restore humanity back to their original position as true sons and daughters of God. And that's what this holiday is about. Children's Day is a holiday that celebrates the restoration of humanity back to their original position as children of God. So let's read some more. Children's Day is the greatest among the holy days. It is greater than Parents' Day because it is the day for parents to recover their authority. So Father Moon is saying that this day, this holiday, is the greatest holiday for humanity. And interestingly, he says that even it's greater than a holiday called Parents' Day, where we celebrate parents. And the point he makes here is that because it's through children that parents are able to recover their authority. So it's a very interesting point here. Parents can't be parents without children. So even God can't be God the parent without children who attend him. Let's continue. This day is not only for Unification Church members, it is a day for all people of the world to mark and celebrate forever and ever. Children's Day is indeed the most blessed day for fallen humankind. So again, Father Moon really emphasizes this holiday as really a special day for humanity, a day to rejoice, in one sense, for God to rejoice, having children restored to that original position. Let's continue. You especially need to commemorate this day starting within your own family environment. You need to make preparations so that your children naturally will eagerly await the coming of Children's Day, even counting the days off on their fingers and rejoicing when the day is near. So Children's Day is meant to be like Christmas, where the kids are excited for gifts, or another holiday that might be similar is Chinese New Year. I know that they have a tradition where all children receive a red envelope with money in it as a gift. So kind of like that, Children's Day, we need to celebrate it in a way where it becomes a memory for children, that it is meant to be a really joyful holiday. When I was growing up, I remember traveling to Belvedere Church in New York, in Westchester, and they would have this holiday, and there would be this huge table piled with fruits and snacks and different things like that, all stacked up. And I remember once the event or the service ended, they would give out all of the fruits and the snacks to the children, and not just the children, but everyone, but including the children. So yeah, I think it's a really nice holiday. I know we didn't really do much this past Friday. I guess it's still possible to do something today. So I just want to encourage everyone to take advantage of this holiday and really use it to celebrate well with your family. So the Children's Day is a really nice holiday to celebrate with our children and to remember the importance of being children of God. And it made me think, how can we be children of God? So it's nice to celebrate this holiday, but how can we actually live up to or strive to be these children of God? So let's read from a message that both Father and Mother Moon shared on this topic. You especially need to commemorate this day, starting within your own family environment. Actually, we already read this one. Okay, sorry. I clicked on the wrong button. Okay, how shall we live to become children of God, people whom God delights to call my son or my daughter? We must emulate the ideal beginning point of God's creative process. We must emulate the ideal beginning point of God's creative process. Therefore, to become God's children, our first responsibility is to resemble God. We need to embody true love. The way to embody true love begins by living as a filial child, then a patriot, a saint, and finally a divine son or daughter of God. Okay, so there are some really valuable nuggets of wisdom being shared here. Let's break it down into several steps. The first step, I believe, that they shared was that if you want to become children of God, we should first practice on our parents, practice this filial heart to our own parents. So one way of doing that is by showing respect and honor. There are many cultures around the world that have traditions in place that do that. For example, I know in Korean culture, it's very much in the language even, that when you're speaking to your elders or your parents, there's an honorific language that you need to use, which is different than when you're speaking with your peers. Another tradition I remember I was visiting a Filipino family, and one tradition, the daughter came home, and as soon as she got home, she went up to her dad and kind of took his hand and placed it on her forehead and kind of bowed at the same time as a sign of really respect and letting the father know that she was back home. And I thought it was really beautiful to see that kind of culture of respect in the family. And I know many other cultures, including the Hispanic community and many other cultures have this kind of really family-centered culture of respect towards your parents. Part of filial piety in growing up as a child, how to practice that also involves doing things that you may not necessarily want to do, but as a child you do because your parents asked you to. I remember one of the things that in my family we used to do was on Sunday mornings, there would be an early morning kind of a family devotional at 5 a.m. And my parents would get all of us up, and it wouldn't be just like get up and, do your prayer and things like that, but we would have to all change into our Sunday best and do this kind of, a devotional. And I remember it was really difficult to get up, but because my parents asked us to, we did it. Kind of we had to, but that's part of, I think, our practice of filial piety is listening to our parents and following certain traditions to help us grow this kind of heart of duty towards our parents. One other example I want to share here is this is a very common experience, I'm sure, for many children, but I remember distinctly wanting to do well in school to make my parents proud. This was something I remember from a young age, like actually at report card day, my parents would line us up and have each of us kind of report. And I remember feeling excited to be able to report how I did that semester to my parents. And one time, it was the summer of my junior year. There's a kind of a standard at home where my mom would always say, you must do study and homework in the mornings, and then if you're done, you can go out and play. And so I remember my friends called me out to play and it was morning, but I knew I had to, study and prepare for my SATs. So instead, I stayed home and, I did my studies. I remember it was very difficult to make that choice, but fortunately, that helped me, and I did well on the SATs that year. Anyway, the point is, sometimes it's difficult to practice filial piety, but it's important to listen to your parents, practice listening to your parents to develop this heart of, for the sake of bringing joy, for the sake of listening and obeying your parents, that you're actually cultivating this heart of filial piety ultimately towards God as a parent. Because sometimes God asks you to do things that you may not want to do. But by practicing this kind of spirit of duty and obedience, and also a desire to bring joy to your parents, you're practicing this heart of filial piety. Another way that we can learn and practice filial heart is through observing those and practicing it with spiritual leaders or mentors. Some examples come to mind, like the disciples of Jesus. Imagine going back 2,000 years, how it must have been like. It probably wasn't easy. They had to leave their work. They might have been fishing or whatnot and just like, follow me. And then they had to kind of leave that and possibly even their families to follow and support Jesus at that time. And the early disciples of Father and Mother Moon, they had to do a similar level of sacrifice. Many of them straight out of high school or college, they sacrificed their career and even their families to follow Father and Mother Moon in this kind of providential course. Now later, as the movement matured, Father and Mother Moon guided our families to strengthen their ties in their own family and to build their tribal influence. One time, Mother Moon, this was back in 2013, she called me to a new mission as the CART president. And it was a very difficult time in our movement. So I may have shared this before, but it was really, let's just say it wasn't the best career move to take on that mission at that time. But I remember being there over breakfast, listening to her, and she was really determined. Father Moon had just passed away the year before, and she was determined to take responsibility for our global community. And she knew that in order for us to succeed, that the next generation leadership in college, led by CARP, which is the Collegiate Association for the Research of Principles, needed to be strong, needed to be revived and healthy. And so she tasked me with that mission. I remember I didn't really want to do it, but at that time, I felt her absolute determination to respond to God and also to her husband, and wanting to continue his legacy. And so I couldn't couldn't, it was one of those, offers you couldn't refuse kind of feeling. But why do we, including disciples of Jesus, the disciples of Father and Mother Moon, myself, why would we continue and say yes despite the difficulty? I can't speak for them, but from my own experience, I can share that, I felt God's love through them. I felt God's desperation through them and was moved by their devotion to God. And I think that was the same for Jesus's disciples and even Father Moon's early disciples, is they felt that kind of their heart for God. And so they decided to sacrifice everything else to follow, to continue God's will. So from this experience, I can say, one way to develop this kind of filial heart towards God is to practice listening to God's guidance through your pastor or spiritual mentor. Again, it's not easy. It's not meant to be easy. Same thing with listening to your parents. It's not easy, right? And it doesn't mean blind obedience. It means, even if you may not feel like doing it at the moment, like cleaning your room or vacuuming the house or whatnot, to really respond to the request. And as you mature, it's not just out of a sense of duty, like I have to do it, but more a desire, a genuine desire to bring joy to them. And if you do this by practicing on your parents, on your spiritual mentors, you will be cultivating this heart that you're going to need in order to attend God as a parent. So that's really the final step on the foundation of practicing filial piety towards your parents and your spiritual mentors. You can continue to grow your filial heart towards God. Now, how do we do that? Let's read. This is from Romans chapter 8, verse 17. Now, if we are children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ, if indeed we share in his sufferings, in order that we may also share in his glory. So this is an interesting verse. I when I came across it, it surprised me. Despite the common understanding that God is not affected by human dealings and what's happening here on earth, we can see here that to really share in his glory, we must also share in his sufferings as well. God actually suffers. Who knew? And what does it mean to share his suffering? Let's take a look. Jesus, this is from Father Moon, talking about Jesus's experience. So let's read. Jesus, who felt such pangs of indignation in his heart, knew that God was deeply concerned about his situation. This is Father Moon is referring to the time around when Jesus was praying at the Garden of Gethsemane. This is why he tried to suppress any expression of such feelings and demonstrated the utmost filial piety towards heaven. When we reflect upon Jesus, we can understand that he felt the heart of God. When Jesus prayed at the Garden of Gethsemane, he asked God, "Let this cup pass from me, not as I will, but as thou wilt." So it shows that Jesus was concerned about God and God's will more than his own life. He knew that he may have to go the way of the cross and be crucified, but he was concerned, not as I will, but as thou wilt. So Jesus was willing to even die if that was necessary to save humanity. It's really an amazing heart that he had. Father and Mother Moon also went through a similar kind of experience where Father, Jesus visited Father Moon on the mountain when he was praying at night at the age 15 and asked for Father Moon to inherit this mission and continue it to build the kingdom. Father Moon knew how difficult that would be, and twice he declined. He said, "No, this is This is way more than I can handle. I don't know what I could do to continue your mission. But he realized that God was asking through Jesus, and that Jesus was asking for his help. So he responded. He said yes. And why did he say yes? Because he had this filial heart towards God. Filial heart that if God is asking him to do something, he's going to do his very best to respond. Same thing with Mother. In 1960, at a young age of 17, Mother Moon accepted her role as Father's bride and took the responsibility as the Mother of Peace. Why did she do that? Because she felt God's heart. She felt like, this is what God is asking me to do. I will absolutely obey and do my very best to fulfill this mission, this calling that God is asking for. So I think the common thread here between Jesus, Father, and Mother Moon is that they responded to these difficult requests because they understood God's heart. They understood why God was asking them to go through such a difficult course. So I think it's important at this time to take a deeper look at God's heart as a parent. This was the heart that Jesus understood, that Father Moon understood, Mother Moon understood, and that's what allowed them to take on such a big mission and responsibility. So for us to really be able to have this heart of filial piety towards God, it's important to understand what is God's heart like. So let's take a look. After the fall, even though human beings betrayed him so many thousands of times, because God considered them his children, he did not hesitate to do any difficult work. A parent cannot abandon a child just because he is committing sins. Even if human beings were to abandon God, God cannot cut off this relationship and abandon people. This is such a powerful passage. Father Moon is saying here that a parent cannot abandon a child just because he is committing sins. And that's the situation with God. God loves us as a parent and thus cannot abandon us. Even though we continue to make mistakes, we continue to pain God's heart, God cannot abandon us because God is our parent. Let's continue. God is an infinitely sad person. With whom will God share his heart? To whom will God reveal his pain and bitterness? God yearns for sons and daughters to appear on the earth, sons and daughters who can cling to God's sorrow and pain and comfort him. This is the highest standard we should aspire to. So this is really one thing that makes our community different, I think, is that Father Moon reveals this aspect of a sorrowful God, not an almighty God that is indifferent or separate or distant from us, but a God who is right there with each of us, understanding and connecting with the suffering that we all go through, and who's yearning to connect with each of us, to understand his heart, the sorrow, the pain that God went through, and to really connect in heart as a parent and child would. That's the kind of God that Father and Mother Moon reveal to us through their own experience. This last passage is more kind of bright. I like to end on a brighter note. So you should form families that God will miss and yearn to return to after he has been away. You should raise families to which he can come freely as a parent visiting his children. This is what it means to live in service to God. So God is longing to be with our families, just as how parents or grandparents feel when visiting their children, right? So understanding that, yes, there's a lot of pain and suffering, just knowing all the suffering that's going on in the world, but to give a little bit of respite or joy to God, it's really about creating an environment in our own families where God can really feel welcome. So we are at the point of the secret of the day, the secret of the week. And the question is, what is the secret to being God's children? I've already kind of mentioned it here and there, but I want to go back to a few tips. Number one, I love this verse, Matthew chapter 5, verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. So that's a pretty big clue there. If you want to be children of God, be peacemakers. Okay, let's look at another verse, Matthew chapter 22, verse 37 to 39. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. So to be children of God, not only should you be peacemakers, but we should love God and love others. So we got peacemaker, love God, love others. These are some key tips. Let's read one more. How shall we live to become children of God, people whom God delights to call my son or my daughter? We must emulate the ideal beginning point of God's creative process. We must emulate, that's a repeat there. Therefore, to become God's children, our first responsibility is to resemble God. So really the secret to being God's children is to simply resemble God. God is a peacemaker, and hence, when we become peacemakers, we resemble God. You know, when we love others, we resemble God. So in order to be children of God, let us be peacemakers. Let us love others, and let us practice God's nature, his attitude, his heart. Then God will be proud of us and experience joy as a parent. You know, one simple example I was reflecting on recently was, when my son did well on his SATs, I felt so proud, because I remember studying hard when I was his age. Or when my daughter decided to cook dinner for us, it brought us tremendous joy, not only because, she was serving us, but because she was really resembling us. So similarly for God, the more we behave like God and resemble God, the more we become like children of God. So in summary, Children's Day is the greatest holiday. So let's definitely celebrate that. Secondly, to be children of God, we must practice filial piety to our parents, to our spiritual mentors, and ultimately practice it directly with God. And third, God has a heart of a suffering parent and is longing for a reunion. So really, that is the state of God's heart. And as true children of God, if we understand that, we should strive to bring any opportunity of bringing joy to God is what we should be doing. So in conclusion, Children's Day is truly a special holiday. I hope you're able to gain some insight into the significance of this day. Also learn a few points on how we can continue to develop our hearts as children of God. So let's strive to comfort him by appreciating God, by sharing God's love to others, and ultimately by resembling God and his divine nature. May God be with you and your family this week. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, President Naokimi, for your message today. If you like today's message, please share it with your friends, family, colleagues. Now let's take a moment to reflect on this question. How can I bring joy to God? Now, while we reflect on this, let's hear some live reflections today. And it's my pleasure to invite Alan and June Saunders and Connor Redmond to share some thoughts with us. Welcome, guys.
Greetings.
Thank you for joining us. And let's start off with Mr. Allen, since you've been on both sides of the situation as the parent and the child. What were some of the thoughts that you had?
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, President Naikimi. I thought that was a brilliant sermon. You made a lot of really excellent points. Especially, I was moved by you talking about God's heart as a parent and the heart of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and connecting to that level of love through empathy. I thought that was very, very good. I also really liked your discussion of filial piety, being loyal, having high levels of devotion, respect, and honoring your elders, spiritual guides, and parents. I'm reminded of a time when we came here to North Carolina, and June's father was very elderly. He was 87 at the time. And I watched June serve him in this level of honoring her parents. So I felt that was a very good example of what you were talking about in this sermon this morning, her selfless service of him. And he passed away a year ago, but at 89 years of age. I'm also very much reminded of our son, Emmanuel, who's had a rebirth over the last year, and he's especially focused on the Gospels and his learning of the divine principle, especially through the Christian ethic, and he's developed an incredible service and love to us. And I'm also very much interested in the connection of agape love and the Christian ethic of agape love with filial piety and devotion and loyalty. And then I was also moved by the element of love your God, love your children, and become peacemakers. And Isaac, I'm very interested to hear from you about living in America and the element of filial piety as opposed to elements of respect and the American way of life. So I'm interested in discussing that with you. Thank you very much. It was an amazing sermon, and God bless you all.
Thank you. Sure, I can definitely share a little bit. I think Korean families, my father's Korean, my mother's Japanese, or Asian households in general have a bit of a different approach, or a more conscious approach to filial piety, like President Naokimi shared. That's kind of ingrained within our language and our habits of bowing to elders and such. And so that can definitely go a long way. Let's hop on over to Mrs. Saunders. What were some of the thoughts that you had?
Okay. That was beautifully done, Naikimi, and I really feel a lot of respect for all the people who contribute. It's very nicely done. I was thinking about a quote from a French writer, Balzac. He said that no one who is truly a mother is ever free. And I think that's really true. I find at night, my mind is going to my children wherever they are, miles and miles away. I'm probing their minds, I'm probing their hearts, I'm worried about them. And when we think of God as a parent, and even such a parent that we're supposed to call him Papa, as St. Paul said, Abba, 7 or 8 billion children, God's thoughts going to each and every one of us, probing our hearts, probing our minds, hoping that we're going to be okay. It's tremendous. So that's one of the great contributions our church has, I think, is the parental heart of God. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Let's hop over to Connor. What were some of your thoughts?
Hi, yeah, I really enjoyed today's sermon. I think one of the biggest things I was reminded of was growing up, when Reverend Alkimi said, Children's Day is supposed to be the greatest holiday for all of humanity. Yeah, I distinctly remember growing up, I didn't celebrate Children's Day so much with my family or my community, because there's so many different holidays and so many to celebrate. I distinctly remember asking my mom, I think it was Mother's Day or Father's Day or something. I was like a rude little boy. I said, why is there no like Kids Day or Children's Day? And something my mom said was, every day is Children's Day, actually. And so, yeah, that actually really stuck with me. I was reminded of that from this sermon. And like, yeah, we have this one holiday, but actually really the love that my parents or my grandparents give to me. And, like June was saying, she's always thinking about her children. Parents are always really celebrating and loving kids so much. That's why thinking that there's even this one holiday, it made me feel like, I want to return that love back to my parents even more. Because, they're always thinking about me and us. We're all children, regardless of how old we are. We all have our parents. So our parents are always loving us throughout our entire life. So yeah, then the point that he mentioned later about how to really grow that filial heart. And he brought up the example of Jesus when Jesus was on the cross and gave up his whole life for God's will. And then I think about myself, and I think, sometimes it's so hard to like go weed the garden when my mom asks. It's like, man, I'm so different from Jesus. So really emulating that sort of lifestyle and who Jesus and Reverend and Mrs. Moon were, I think will really, this is something I really want to do more going forward to help love my parents more.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Connor. Yeah, one thing that stuck out to me from the sermon was President Alkimi shared that filial piety is not just blind obedience. It's knowing that sometimes you may disagree with them, but you still do it anyways out of the desire to make your parents happy. And I think that's a great way to practice our ability to love our heavenly parent, because I mean, at least for me, sometimes I have trouble connecting with them on a very deep artistic level. But I think if we practice that with our parents, I think it will take us one step closer to be able to do that on a daily basis.
Amen.
Any last thoughts among the three of you?
One quick last thought. The two most difficult things you'll ever do in your life is get married and have children, because both of them mean we have to grow up and mature and become unconditional. And especially as a parent, there's no textbook for it, but I think we need to write more and more textbooks of how to do it, because it just doesn't come naturally. And as selfish individuals, 3 o'clock in the morning, it's like, well, there's no choice here. So I think those are my closing comments.
Thank you. Yes, a textbook on marriage life will be helpful too, as someone who's recently married and blessed. Thank you all for joining us and sharing your comments. And for now, we will head over to Challenge of the Week. So this week's challenge is do something for someone to express God's love for them. I'd also like to mention, if you'd like to participate in the service by prayer or live reflections, just as we did, please contact your local pastor. And if you like to contribute a musical offering, you can email music@nationalfamilyservice.org. And so today we spoke about Children's Day and about being children of God. One of the best ways to develop our culture heart for God and among each other is through music. So before we close, we also want to invite you to join us for the Hyojung Culture Night on Saturday. See what's waiting for us on Saturday. And so before we go to closing prayer, let's get a preview of this exciting event.
Now let's join Reverend Gilbert Starr for our closing prayer.
Hello, everyone. Please join us in prayer. Our most loving God and Heavenly Parent, we thank you so much for allowing us to receive this beautiful message this morning from Reverend Ushiroda, truly sharing with us about the importance of filial piety as sons and daughters of yours, as children of you, our precious God. We thank you so much that you allow us each and every day to truly grow our minds and hearts, to become true sons and daughters of yours, and to truly perfect our character and become men and women who can truly work to restore our nation and the nations of the world. We thank you for our global family, Heavenly Parent. Thanking you that we could truly know Jesus, know the true parents, and become the people that you can work with to truly embrace and love all people. The teaching of Jesus are so clear, Heavenly Parent, that we must first love God and love our fellow man. Guide us that we can truly be the sons and daughters that can bring comfort to your heart and can bring about your liberation. We love you and we thank you and pray for all of our families in this nation of America and our families throughout the world. Guide us that we can truly work with the Mother of Peace, Reverend Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, to truly help realize your ideal and build your heavenly kingdom upon this earth. Please receive this Sunday service and please receive the prayers in the hearts of all of our brothers and sisters and blessed families worldwide. As I offer this humble prayer in deepest gratitude and thanks to you, offering this service to you, Heavenly Parent, we pray in the name of Gilbert and Osmarina Starr, the Starr family, a blessed central family. Amen and Achu.
And for our closing song today, we have a special virtual collaboration of an original song by Lawrence Baer titled, I've Been Blessed by the Living God. Happy Children's Day, everybody.
Devil
Thank you all for joining us today. If you are moved by this sermon today and have the desire to support this ministry, go to nationalfamilyservice.org and click Give, or type #donate in Facebook chat. If you gained something meaningful today, please share this link with your friends, neighbors, or coworkers. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you give the like button a hit. That helps spread the word a little bit on these platforms. Again, have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday here at the National Family Service. God bless you.
Our cherished hopes are for unity. Even our dreams are for unity. We give our lives for unity. Come along, unity. Unity saving the people. Unity saving all nations. Come here quickly, unity. Come along, unity. Our cherished hopes are for unity. Even our dreams are for unity. We give our lives for unity. Come along, unity. Unity saving the people. Unity saving all nations. Come here quickly, unity. Come along, our cherished hopes are for unity. Even our dreams are for unity. We give our lives for unity. Come along, unity. Unity saving the people. Unity saving all nations. Come here quickly, unity. Come along, unity. Come along, unity. Come along,
사랑했던 주를 정말로 사랑해 당신이 내 곁을 떠나간 뒤에 나